In a quiet village nestled between green hills and winding streams, lived a girl named Amira. She was 17, spirited yet tender-hearted, known in the village not for her beauty, though she had plenty, but for her heart that felt too deeply and too often. Amira's life had not been easy. Her father had died in a construction accident when she was only 9. Her mother, crushed by grief and sickness, passed away 2 years later. That left Amira and her younger brother, Faisal, who was just a toddler when the tragedy struck. Amira, barely 11 at the time, took up the mantle of parenthood, raising Faisal with whatever means she could find: odd jobs, sewing for neighbors, collecting herbs, and at times, going hungry herself so Faisal could eat. The boy was her joy and her sorrow. When Faisal was 6, he fell from a tree chasing a paper kite. The fall broke his back, and due to delayed treatment and lack of money, the injury left him unable to walk. The doctors called it permanent. Amira refused to believe it. She spent every rupee she earned on physiotherapy, herbs, prayers, and hope. But 5 more years passed, and Faisal still sat in his wheelchair, his legs limp, eyes tired. Amira's hope, though worn thin, never died. One chilly morning, while walking back from the forest where she'd gone to gather mushrooms and firewood, Amira saw a strange sight. An old woman, frail and hunched, wrapped in a tattered shawl, sat near the roadside, struggling to lift a bucket of water from the well. No one paid her attention. Some villagers even frowned. "She's a crazy old witch," whispered one. "She curses people," said another. Amira ignored the warnings. Something about the woman's trembling fingers and the quiet desperation in her eyes tugged at her heart. She rushed forward. "Let me help you, Amma," she said. The old woman turned slowly. Her eyes, cloudy with age, were soft, like milk, but with a depth that made Amira's spine shiver. "You will help me?" the woman asked in a voice like dry leaves rustling. "Yes," Amira said, lifting the bucket. "Where do you live?" "In the forest. A small hut near the old banyan tree." Amira hesitated. The forest was deep and known to be haunted, but the woman's smile was kind, and her need was real. "I'll walk you there." The woman seemed pleased. As they walked, she asked Amira questions about her life, her brother, her dreams. Amira, without knowing why, answered truthfully, pouring her heart out like she hadn't in years. When they reached the hut, a moss-covered structure that looked too fragile to stand the wind, the old woman turned to her. "You are kind," she said. "Kindness is a rare currency in this world." Amira smiled. "If kindness were gold, I'd be the richest girl in the world." The old woman chuckled. "Then let me give you something in return." She went inside and returned with a small, dusty box wrapped in red cloth. "This," she said, handing it to Amira, "is an old gift. Use it wisely, but only when your heart is full of belief." Amira opened it. Inside was a smooth stone, blue like the sea, glowing faintly. "What is it?" "A hope stone," the woman said. "It listens to hearts that truly believe. But beware, it cannot be used for selfish gain." Amira nodded, though she didn't really believe in such things. She thanked the woman, placed the stone in her pocket, and returned home. That night, Faisal was running a fever. He cried in pain, clutching his legs as if they burned. Amira wept silently, watching her brother suffer. For the first time in years, she felt her strength failing. She held the stone in her palm, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Please, if there's even a bit of magic in you, heal my brother. Let him walk. Let him feel the earth beneath his feet. Not for me, for him. He deserves a childhood, a life." The stone grew warm, so warm it nearly burned her fingers. Amira opened her eyes in shock. The next morning, Faisal woke up smiling. He said the pain was gone. 2 days later, he felt a tingling in his toes. Within a week, he stood up for the first time in 5 years. Within 2, he walked. The village buzzed with disbelief. The doctors called it a spontaneous neural recovery. A miracle. Amira knew better. She went back to the forest. The old woman's hut was gone, as if it had never been there. Not even a footprint in the grass remained. With Faisal walking, their life changed. Amira began a small herbal medicine shop, using recipes the old woman had once muttered. Business grew, for her kindness, patience, and skill healed not just bodies but hearts. Faisal, now filled with hope and strength, became a teacher, helping poor village children learn to read and write. People came from far-off towns to see the girl whose love healed her brother. But Amira remained humble. Her joy was simple: the sound of her brother's footsteps, the warmth of a house filled with laughter. She kept the stone safely in a wooden box. Never used it again, not even when she herself fell ill for a while. "It's not for me," she would say. 10 years later, Amira had grown into a beautiful woman with eyes that still sparkled with kindness. She never married, not because she didn't want to, but because she hadn't found anyone who understood the weight of her heart. One rainy evening, as she was closing her shop, a traveler came into town. A scholar who had heard tales of a glowing stone and a mysterious healer. He asked Amira questions, many of which she didn't answer. But before leaving, he said, "You must know, stories like yours don't just heal the sick. They heal the world." Amira smiled. "Then let the world heal." One night, when Faisal had gone to the city and the world was quiet, Amira walked back into the forest. She sat by the old banyan tree. "I don't know if you were real," she said softly, "but thank you for giving me back my brother, my life." The wind whispered through the trees. "Kindness," it seemed to say. "Kindness never goes unanswered." And as the moonlight touched her skin, the hope stone in her pocket pulsed gently, as if in agreement. Moral of the story: kindness may seem small in the moment, but it echoes in places we cannot see. When we give without asking, love without reason, and hope without proof, the universe, in its mysterious ways, always returns the favor.